Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
Okay, right. Uh, yeah, sorry for the late start today. So where did we stop last class? Menaka, can I get the blue one, right? Where we stopped last class, I think we are still at the economic analysis, right? Can anyone tell me? Should I have to appoint somebody as a coordinator? Asanga, where we stopped last class? Mr. Asanga? Asanga, can you hear? Mr. Chalit? Can you hear me? Mr. Dilan? No one is responding. No.
We can hear you, sir.
Hello.
Why this no
Hello,
one is
sir.
responding?
Sir,
Yeah.
we have to start the economic management today.
Economic
Yeah,
management, right? So
management.
may I know to whom I'm speaking, Mr. Dilshan?
Yes.
Or whom I'm speaking now?
I am Upul, sir. Upul Kanakaratna.
Mr. Upul, right. Thank you very much. Okay, right. I know some of you might have difficulties in logging and the sounds and all of that. I know some of you are logged from through your phone, or some maybe you're driving and all of that. But I think we should have a basic etiquette of online training and online teaching. So colleagues, once I call your name, right, unless otherwise it's a very severe problem that you cannot respond, please at least respond, right? It's a basic etiquette, and it's a courtesy also, right? And if I demand you to switch on your cameras, please do that. Unless otherwise it is difficult, so difficult, maybe you would be not in a position in a situation. But it should not be norm, it could be exception. But in normal situation, like if I ask somebody now, let's say if I ask Dilshan to switch on the cam and then talk, so please do that. Because the thing is, you also have to understand, this would be, as I've been telling to Mr. Menaka, this is a very difficult thing for a lecturer to talk to a machine, right, without having any physical interaction, right, or the facial interaction. So, and for you also, sometimes it would be difficult you to, just listen everything without any interaction. And as we've been trained in more group oriented, so Menaka is there, so that's why I want to make this statement. Group oriented learning. So in the class, if you have the physical class, we would have a lot of these discussions, the groups and all. This is not a tuition class. This is not a sort of a A-level class where the teacher comes and give, and then you take all the notes. So this interaction is very important. I really appreciate Mr. Upul. So at least jump and try to answer. So I don't want again a one person or two persons answer. So that is not the situation. So that's really appreciate. But everybody ask questions. Ask and involve, and if I ask the name or kindly request you to respond, please respond. Please switch on your camera. Unless otherwise, in exceptional case that you might not do so. That is understood. But I am hoping that everybody of you are well-trained, experienced professionals and bankers. So you will also adhere to that etiquette. And then and then make this session very interactive as much as possible. But I'm very happy. Last class we did a very good, very good session. So a lot of you involved, shared your experience and all of that. So this is how higher education is supposed to be, because otherwise it would be bored for you, it would be bored for me. And because of this, and particularly because of this online, we had the opportunity, our colleagues from Jaffna and some regions, isn't it, Mr. Menaka, come and join this class. Because if this would be in a physical class, most probably the colleagues from Jaffna cannot participate, because either traveling and all of that, it seems doesn't make much sense. But because of the online thing that the colleagues from not only Jaffna, but all the other, with wider regions, the faraway regions, faraway places, that you could able to do that. So that is what we want to keep this online thing as much as possible. But on the other hand, if DG approved, maybe down the road, we might have the physical interaction also, because I think lecturers also make a lot of concern. It's the difficulty of talking to the machine, right? So that we have to understand. So if you have the physical one, we will make sure that the colleagues from regions also could still be incorporated, still you can listen to the lectures like this. But others can come and do that, because now my next modules would be with all the P&Ls and the balance sheets and all that, and I'm wondering how we can do it without physical interaction, because a lot of group works have to be done. I mean, first couple of few lectures would be fine. So please again give your full attention, ask questions and all other. And there's another not a complication, but that another matter that I have to raise. Because there are Tamil speaking colleagues, sometimes if I continue to talk in Sinhala, it would be difficult them to follow. So in that context, what I would kindly request, if I with or without my knowledge, if I try to communicate, or if I happen to communicate or happen to talk, happen to teach in Sinhala language, please raise a hand and ask any question, clarification, flag. And I know there are some colleagues here who are not very conversant of English, so they wanted to have it in Sinhala language, right? So in such situation, if you want to have any problem or anything, you just ask that questions directly, switch on your camera and particularly switch on your mic, and you can ask that question if anything doesn't understand. So what I would like here is to have a professional level understanding of everybody. So we have 30 people in this class, including me, 31, of that understanding. So sometimes if I am talking just only in English, if anybody cannot understand, please ask in Sinhala, ask me to explain. I will try my level best to switch. But on the other hand, if I try to too much explain stuff in Sinhala, and if it is not understandable to the Tamil speaking colleagues, please ask that and raise that question. So I think that understanding also we should have, because sometimes otherwise it would be difficult us to manage this one, of course. And why this is become further complicated is because of the online nature. Because if it is the physical one-to-one, I know communication, 50% of the communication or even more, it's body language. So sometimes with body language you would be able to understand what the hell the lecturer is trying to tell. But here the body language is very difficult again, because you're looking at the camera, and some of you might having your own stuff. Maybe some kids are there, and some of you might be driving, some of you might be cooking and all of that. But try to do that, right? Okay, so this is very few initial arrangements. So again, kind request is, if I ask and call a name, and if I demand to open a cam, please do so, unless otherwise there would be an exception. And remember, exceptions are not known, right? Exception can be, but that should not be repeated. So as Mr. Upul said, today we are going to discuss a little bit of economic management. Economic management, right? Here, economic management means what we are trying to understand now is how we manage an economy, or what are the main two economic policies. So can you please tell me what are the generally encountered economic policies that you have in an economy?
Open economic policy.
What is that?
Open economic policy.
Open economic policies. Give some examples.
The goods and services are coming freely, no restrictions.
Okay, no. Before that, what I'm trying to understand, like, give some examples for economic policies.
Monetary policy and fiscal policy.
Okay, I think the main two economic policies are fiscal policy and monetary policy. In Sinhala we call Ayavaya Pratipattiya, and monetary policy we call Mulya Pratipattiya, right? But other than that, you have exchange rate policy, you have industrial policy, you have whatever, but what is that, trade policy. So there are a lot of other policies. By the way, what is the difference between a policy and a law?
Law is a must.
Law is a must. Okay, what do you mean by a must?
We have to adhere that.
Okay, and policy?
We can change time to time based on the situation.
Okay, so non-adhering to the law, what would happen?
Penalized.
You will get penalized. Okay, so that means yes, exactly correct. So law is something that is written where everybody of us should be bound, and non-adhering to the law would result a charge, which is normally we call it a punishment, right? Either different ways. But on the other hand, policies are the things that, you know, set of norms, set of understanding, set of some concepts where everybody of us are supposed to follow. But violation of a policy did not mean that you will get penalized in that sense as a punishment or something like that. By the way, some other aspect, not necessarily the SME or the economics, but in our political economy, who actually make laws in this country? Who are the lawmakers?
Parliament. Parliament.
Parliament is a lawmaker, right? So then whose authority the parliament exercise? Saturanga? Charit, whose authority will exercise? So Charit Jayasundara?
Finance Ministry?
The finance ministry has nothing to do with parliament, no? Actually, I mean, I'm just trying to understand who has power in this country?
Public.
People.
General public.
General public, people. People are having something else. Huh? People are having absolute power. Which articles to the Constitution? What is the first article to the Constitution? General knowledge, general knowledge, general knowledge. Mr. Upul? Mr. Asanga? Asanga Denekina, Kalupahana and Samir. Asanga Samir?
No idea.
Very nice answer, no idea of the word. At least I'm not asking the 237 article of the Constitution, which is of parliamentary privilege. I am asking the first article. What could be common sense? What could be? It's a of course explanation of the state, right? It's a democratic socialist republic of Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka Prajatantrika Janaraja, Sri Lanka Prajatantrika Samajwadi Janaraja is a handinwanneya. Right? But the problem is we are one of the particular country which we have both democratic and socialist in front of the republic. Now most of the other countries in the world, it is Republic of India, People's Republic of China, Republic of something, right? Or United States of America, United Kingdom. So we are a democratic socialist, but unfortunately neither democratic nor socialist is being practiced here. That's a problem, right? Okay, forget about that. So who has the power authority? People, according to the Article 2 of the Constitution, the people are the absolute sovereignty. The people, Sri Lanka Prajatantrika Samajwadi Janaraje Paramadipatya Janatava Satuya. What do you mean by this Paramadipatya? What is Paramadipatya? Nilshan, what is Paramadipatya? Paramadipati Balaya kiyane mokadda?
Voting rights.
Voting rights, it's how you exercise Paramadipatya puta, not Paramadipati itself. Paramadipati bale kyanne mokada? What are the three elements? I mean, you should know this, right? So people who will give power to the states, and state exercise these three elements of power. There are three manifestation of power. I will come back to policy later on because this is very important point. What is that? What's the first manifestation of Paramadipati Balaya? We call legislature. Legislative sovereignty. What do you mean by legislation? Who is
Legal framework.
Sorry?
Supreme Court.
The Supreme Court is not legislation. Legislative, somebody just said that. What is that?
Parliament.
Parliament. Which is 225 idiots are there? That is Parliament, that legislature. So legislature is basically the body which create laws. That is where laws
Parliament Act.
Act of Parliament, very good. Acts of Parliament. Parliamentu Pana. Acts of Parliament. Parliamentu Pana. And there are something called Parliamentu Ajñapana, which is ordinance. What's the difference between acts and ordinance? So any law which has been approved before the second, so first Republic Constitution. First Republic Constitution was when? Lanka palavini व्यवस्थाव में राज्य व्यवस्थाव रिपब्लिक व्यवस्थाव जनराज्य व्यवस्थाव बनाओ
1948.
48? No, 48 we got the Salisbury, which is a Dominion thing.
72. 1972.
Very good. That's some say hatta deke how the author. Ane. What happened to these bankers, highly paid bankers? Who was all the how the guys hatta deke व्यवस्था है दुवे?
Colin R. De Silva.
Very good, Colin R. De Silva, right? And then now we are having which constitution?
78.
Second Republic Constitution, which is correct, which is authored by Honorable J.R. Chawla, right? Okay, acts of so it does all these laws, what we call them ordinance. I want a third single in Canada, Ajñapana. After the 72, we call acts of Parliament. So laws are acts of Parliament. So now, for example, what is the act which governs central bank? Central bank, it's better that everybody should go for a brush up course in general knowledge before coming to SME's course. If I ask from a banker, Central Mahabanko Palane when a Panata Mokadikela Mokad Panata. Charit Jasundara? Charit? Or sorry, Chalit. Chalit. I'm short sighted, sorry.
Number 58 of number 58 act
Mona Act kada.
Monetary Law Act.
Monetary Law Act. Very good, Chalit. Very good. So it's a Monetary Law Act. Even the Mulya Panata Tamai Mahabank. What is the act that governs all the banks? Harshana Monasingha. Mr. Harshana Mokadda Banku Kapala and Panata Mokadape.
Banking Act.
Banking, of course, yes, Banking Act of 19. Harnamang Hanone Mokadda latest amendment take a Banking Act ticket. Banking Act of 1988, latest amendment take a do the Bank Panata. Ekta Samsia? Name, the Das Dolahek, right. Finance companies governed in Monopanatendum is Kalpani, Sadalanka. What's the act that is governed by the finance companies?
Finance Leasing Act number 56 of 2000.
that is leasing industry, not finance companies. Finance companies governed by the Finance Business Act of 2011, I think, right? Okay, Nimal Kathir. Nimal, what is the law that governed the criminal issues in the country? What do you call that particular law?
Not yet, no, sir.
Miss Satyavani? Criminal matters. By the way, what's the difference between a criminal and civil? Because these are very important things. As bankers, you should know. Parate action is a civil action or a criminal action?
Criminal action.
Why you say criminal action?
Legally, we are bound to recover that amount if it is more than 5 million.
Yeah, that's true. That is parate action. But is that why you said it's criminal? What's the difference between a criminal and civil?
Normally, we can gain for bail for civils, but not for criminals.
Okay, very good.
Civil cases include that
Criminal
private
means
dispute.
crimes.
Yeah. Tell me.
That civil cases usually involve that private disputes between individuals, like that.
Exactly. Then what is
criminal cases then affect the society as a whole.
Yeah, I did that. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, please. What is that?
Criminal law relates to crime situation.
Obviously, criminal law crime tamai. But what is the point? I think your colleague said, right. So I mean this is nothing to do with SME, but it's indeedly important in law, right? In society, like you guys are professionals, because it's part of professional life that we should know some of this information, right? Okay. I mean, distinction is criminal law. I think our colleague said very correctly. Civil law means, civil issue means that the issue between two parties. Ekane parshava dekak atar තියෙන issue එකක් තමයි civil issue එකක් කියලා කියන්නේ. Now, for example, like for my property rights, whether my property, that property and all other, my succession, mage දේපල උරුමය පිළිබඳ ප්‍රශ්න, or my marriage, or my divorce. So those are the things between two people, two parties. That's nothing to do with the society. So those we call civil laws, right? So civil cases, or the law which is applied to civil, it's called the civil code procedure. In Sinhala අපි එකට කියනවා civil නීති සංග්‍රහය කියලා. ඉතින් ඒකත් හදන්නේ මෙන්න මේ පාර්ලිමේන්තු එකෙන් තමයි ඒක හදන්නේ. civil නීති සංග්‍රහය. වගන්ති තියෙනවා 273ක් තියෙනවා civil නීති සංග්‍රහය. Civil code procedure. ඒ වගේ criminal means that the matter is, as your colleague said, to the society. Give some example of a criminal offense. Chaturanga Monasingha, criminal offense එකට උදාහරණයක් කියන්න.
Some murder, sir.
Murder, right? I murder now. You murder me. You kill me. So that is between you and me, no? So then why it's a criminal?
So third party එකට ඒකේ බලපෑම ඇති වෙන නිසා some
මගේ දේපල ගත්තහම
පවුලේ අය
බලපෑමක් ඇති වෙනවනේ.
එහෙමනොත් පවුලේ අයට
Okay.
වෙන අසාධාරණ හරි ඒ වගේ.
All right, okay. Tama ko, Mr. Kumar, Karunara, Kanakarapno. Mr. Kumar, are you there? Miss Lakmini Ranatunga, why? Yes, Kumar. Why the killing is considered as offense against the society?
There is a threat to the society.
Why? So the thing is,
it can be happen to us.
Actually, yes, Kumara, sorry.
It can be happen to me also.
Of course.
That's the
It
thing.
is violated your living right.
What is that? I didn't hear. Who's that, Prasanna?
Hello. It is violated your living right.
If it's continued, it will affect the society.
It will, yeah, exactly. So I mean, it's not really. It's true, but on the other hand, now Now, according to law, who owns my life? Not me. My life is owned by the state, right? So if you kill me, means that you have done an offense against the state, not me. Ehinda thamai suicide karagan attempt karot. If you attempt for suicide, you will be jailed for 7 years. Why? Even your life cannot be owned. You are not the owner. The life is owned by the state, right? So I cannot just hang myself and marunot hondai habai marun natta awurudu 7ක් හිරේ. සියදිවි නසා ගැනීමේ උත්සාහය. උතර මතක තියාගන්න. right? නසා ගන්නවා නම් මැරෙන්නම නසා ගන්න ඕනේ නැත්තම් ඉවරයි. right? ඒක තමයි තව හිරෙත් විතර හිරපස්සට කාපංකෝ අවුරුදු 7ක් තව. ඒක හොඳට මතක තියාගන්න. So that's the thing. So when it comes to something like murder, something like rape, now rape also be, even it's supposed to be 2 people, it is some crime, some bad thing you're doing against to the society, right? So those are the things we call criminal. So criminal laws මේවා කරන්නේ දණ්ඩ නීති සංග්‍රහය එහෙම නැත්නම් අපරාධ නඩු විධාන සංග්‍රහය කියලා එකක් තියෙනවා. ඒකේ තියෙනවා clauses 312ක්ද කොහෙද? ඒකත් lawyers ලා ඒක මේවා කරනවා. So what I'm telling is, coming back to all the law discussion, the parliament is responsible for making the laws, right? So what's the other arm? Legislate another arm? Vyastadayaka saha? Yeah? Anyone? We call executive. Sinhala we call vidhayaka, executive. So these people are lawmakers. And what's the role of executive? What's the role of executive? Enforcement. Enforcement. නීතිය ක්‍රියාත්මක කිරීමේ බලය තියෙන්නේ විධායකයට. Who are the executive in the country now? Pupul, who is the executive of the country now?
President.
Yes, His Excellency the President and the Cabinet. So his power goes to the execution. So if you normally you see the even for the 3 forces and then the army and all other it goes and the police it goes this. Okay, what's the other one? Other one we call judiciary. Judiciary. Adhikaranaya. So what's the role of judiciary? What's the role of judiciary? Judiciary's role is to balance these two. Because when it's come to executive always have to execute the law as per the mandate of the legislator. The legislator කියපු නීතිය හැටියට තමයි executive නීතිය ක්‍රියාත්මක කරන්නේ. Executive ඕන විදිහට නීතිය ක්‍රියාත්මක කරන්න බෑ. එතකොට එහෙම කරනවද කියලා බලලා ඒ කරන අවස්ථාවලදී remedial action එක දෙන්නේ judiciary. The judiciary has the power to give. So that is what we call, this is the responsibilities interpretation of law. Interpretation of law. So this is lawmakers, law executors, and the law interpretation. So it's very important to know when it's come to the Westminster system. Westminster sampradaya itama වැදගත් ලක්ෂණය තමයි මේ කොටස් අතර තියෙනවා firewalls. So that means law හදන එක්කෙනාට බෑ ක්‍රියාත්මක කරන්න, ක්‍රියාත්මක කරන එක්කෙනාට බෑ හදන්න, මේ දෙන්නටම බෑ interpret කරන එක්කෙනාට මේ දෙකම කරන්න. Right? So this is the thing. So you have a separate check and balances according to topic. Again, check and balances. Check and balances system. So the people who make laws cannot enforce. Enforcer cannot make. Neither of them cannot do the interpretation. Interpreter cannot do the either. Right? So that is what you have to understand. So when a whole mechanism state rajya Arsanga, Raj, right? And the government කියන්නේ executive party. So normally in the system, state is something like the vehicle or a train where the government is the driver. So that is how it operates, right? That is the thing. Any question on this? Or any comment? Ms. Tarani? Oh, sorry, Mr. Tarani, sorry.
No, sir, clear.
Hello, Savia.
Oh, clear.
Right. So this is basically what we want to discuss. So these are the, this is actually the structure of the government. So please remember, everybody, irrespective of you are a banker or not or whatnot, that we are the power, we have the power, the people have the power, and our power is being used by these people. So the politicians, theoretically, member of parliament, the president, of course, judiciary is a different thing, but particularly the lawmakers and interpreters, or sorry, enforcers, they are using our power, right? So they are having a sort of, we call the trusteeship to the people. What do you mean by a trusteeship? Trusteeship can be what? Yeah, Mr. Sasika. Sasika, මොකද trusteeship කියන්නේ? දන්නේ නැත්නම් දන්නේ කියන්න ඕනේ මයික් එක on කරලා.
No idea.
Trusteeship කියන්නේ බාරයක් කියන එක. So that means that you take control of the resources on behalf of us. So these people, they are not the owners of the country, right? But unfortunately, they think they are the owners. That's a problem. And we, the people, we have delegated all the power, and we think that we will have to rule by them. So that is happening throughout. So that's actually the problem. Okay, coming back to economics. Now we know what are the laws. Laws are the things which is governed by the state or the parliament, and the other one is policies. Policies are not really laws, but then policies can be interchange, but that does not have a legal consequences. And there's a sub-element between laws and the policies called regulations. Regulations, what do you mean by regulation? Regulations are kind of a bylaws. As a gazette notification, regulations. Right. Okay. With that, we will again come to the economic management. So there are two economic management policies, right? All other policies are really important, but very important main policy that we are talking about is fiscal policy. Can anyone tell me what is fiscal policy is? Where's our economics teacher now in this class? Fiscal policy කියන්නේ මොකක්ද? Anyone?
Use of government revenue and expenditure to influence country's economy.
Very good. Fiscal policy කියලා කියන්නේ, now this is the state, not the government, but the state, Rajya. I mean, normally state and government, we are talking in a bit of interchangeable words, but really it is state, right? So what is fiscal policy is? Fiscal policy කියලා කියන්නේ how state would manage its inflows, right, of money, and how it spend them or other outflows. So that is why normally fiscal policy we understand as aya vaya pratipattiya, aya and vaya, inflow and outflow. Now please tell me, what are the ways that money is coming to the state? Give some examples.
Taxes.
Very good. Through taxes, tax income. What else? I hope you are drawing all these, right? You are making your own notes, because sometimes these things, economic aspects, could be checked in the exam. So please don't be very complex. Please don't be very complex and sleeping and then being topless and then all other. If you are in the lecture, be properly prepared. Have your own notes set. If you want, you record this And then while I'm asking questions, Google them, academically and intellectually involved with the lecture, even though you are in outstation, because otherwise if you try to be complacent, you will be screwed up in style at the exam, right? Okay, tax income. What's the other one?
Exports.
Okay, income from exports. Okay, but income from export, I will not take it here because this is for the state, but income from export, if you are exporting, it's normally getting for individuals. So but not that, but if state export like oil or something like that, it's a different thing. But at least in Sri Lankan context, what's the other one? How money?
Foreign investments.
Remittances.
Foreign investment.
Oh yeah, two things: remittances. Another one, FDIs. Yes, foreign direct investment. What else? What else?
From the state-owned enterprises.
Foreign debts. Foreign debts.
So if you borrow loans,
Donations.
yeah, aid, foreign aid. And other one is very important, income from SOEs. What is SOE stands for? Can anyone knows what is this abbreviation is? SOE? State-owned
Enterprises.
enterprises. Very good. Right. Okay. So there are different ways that the money would come. So that's why I'm not saying income. I'm just saying inflow. Even government borrows from somewhere. It's an inflow to the country. Right. So these ones, then government or the state's responsibility is to spend in a particular way. And spending, you will realize I have only put 2 arrows. So that means, very simply means, there are 2 types of spending. What are the 2 types of spending? Can anybody tell me?
Capital expenditure.
Very good. First one is capital expenditure. Other one?
Recurrent expenditure.
Recurrent expenditure. Very good. Recurrent expenditure. Singaling කියන ප්‍රාග්ධන වියදම් සහ මේකට මොකක්ද කියන්නේ? Singaling.
ප්‍රවර්තන.
පුනරාවර්තන වියදම්. වර්තන වියදම් කියලා කියන්නේ මේකට. So what's the difference between these two? What's the difference between these two?
Recurring expenses mean day-to-day expenses.
Yeah, recurrent expenditure means day-to-day expenses, the expenses which is happening on yearly basis, which is very correct. And capital expenditure is expenditure which we are focusing to, or which we are investing towards for the capital goods. Capital goods means, like, give us some examples like ports, highways, hospitals, all the buildings and all other capital expenditure. And normally the capital expenditure is one-off, but recurrent expenditure is happening on an annual basis, right? So this is very simply, I mean, fiscal policy is a complicated topic, but we don't want to go into that complication now. But this is what fiscal policy is. Right. This is what fiscal policy is. Now I will ask a very important question, which is a bit of economic question, not just to see like how strong you are economically connected. What is the main objective of the fiscal policy? Think me and answer. Fiscal pratipattiye moulika abhimatarthe mukhya abhimatarthe mukhyarthe මොකක්ද? Main objective. Ngana මේක ඉතාම වැදගත් අපේ හැම කතන්දරයකම. මේ fiscal policy කියන්නේ මේ නිකන් අයවැය නිකන් ඔය පාර්ලිමේන්තුවේ ගිහලා කවුරු හරි ලියලා දීලා කියවන එක නෙමෙයි. But there's a big මුඛ්‍යාර්ථයක් තියෙනවා ඒකේ. What is that?
To control the
Control what?
Government inflows and outflows. Control.
Yeah, that is controlling තමයි. නමුත් ඒක මුඛ්‍යාර්ථයක් නෙමෙයි. But that's not our objective. That would anyway happen.
To reach a high economic growth.
To
reach a high economic growth.
To reach economic growth, which is good, but then how you put it in economically? To achieve
allocation of funds for the development of the country.
Yes. If
And
you want to tell that, you can say the objective of the fiscal policy is to achieve full employment. Achieve full employment. So this is objective. By the way, what is this employment mean in economics? How you understand if somebody say to achieve full employment, how you understand this concept? This Rajmali, Lianarachi, how you understand this? Full employment means what? Mr. Rajmohan, what do you mean by full employment in economics? I mean, what's the general meaning of full employment?
Is it the employment percentage of the country?
Yeah, so normally, I mean, as lay people, we think, yes, the full employment means that the majority of the people or everybody who are employable should be working, right? So it's about but in economics, full employment has a deeper meaning. What is that? What is
that is maximum output of goods and services.
Getting
maximum output of goods and services.
Getting so that means yeah, something similar, which is very good. Getting maximum output means all productive
scarce resources. All the scarce resources are fully employed. That means fully used.
Exactly. That is the thing. So the scarce, or rather, if you say all productive resources are employed to their full efficiency. Right? Full employment right? Employment so full employment in fiscal policy, but it means that all the productive resources are used in optimum way. And the resources, as you said, some colleagues said, resources are limited. So limited resources, again coming back to the original theme of economics, how these limited resources are used and invest in optimum way, how we allocate the resources. So again, fiscal policy, which we consider the mother of all policies, its main point is resource allocation. So fiscal policies talk about resource allocation. Fiscal policies talk about how best the resources would be utilized. Fiscal policy is talk about how the country, the people, the society keep fully employed. But this full employment, is it a practical thing to achieve? Can we achieve 100% full employment? Can we? No. So full employment we cannot. Now, is it something like in the previous discussion that we did know in Gini coefficient? You remember in Gini coefficient we said that that we cannot achieve full income inequality or full income equality. No? So it's two ends, two hypothetical ends. Similarly, full employment is also a hypothetical thing. But what state should do is, by proper managing all these, what state could do is to see and try to achieve the best output. Right. Now let's little bit dig deeper into this concept. If inflows are larger than outflows, what sort of a budget we call?
Surplus budget.
Surplus.
Yeah. If inflows are higher, than outflows, such budget we call surplus budget. And if outflows are higher than inflows, We call that
Deficit.
budget. Now, looking at Sri Lankan situation, what our budget is?
Deficit.
There's a budget deficit.
We have a huge budget deficit. So our budget is a deficit budget, where our outflows are much more greater than inputs, right? Now we'll take another few minutes, 15 minutes or 20 minutes to understand why there is a budget deficit in Sri Lanka. So if you try to analyze that, you could see issues are from both inflows side and for the outflow side. So before we come into inflows, let's see on the outflow. So let me first ask a question from one of you. Why we are having huge outflow? What is your understanding? And of course, you know, capital part is not that is captured because capital, I mean, we are not doing much capital expenditure now. Of course, there was a period that we could see a lot of development happening. We could see ports, highways, and all of the power plants have been building, but now relatively those things are not happening relatively, right? So capital expenditure is fine. I mean, it's not that much that you could see. I mean, you could not see such not a private sector, but at least government-oriented capital expenditure happening as of now. But what you could see is a budget deficit. So what would be the reasons for that?
Recurring expenses is high.
Asana, yes, we have a huge recurrent expenditure. Okay, now I am asking you very, very important question. What is our main recurrent expenditure of the government of Sri Lanka? And mind you, my dear students, now all these questions are not economics, it's general knowledge, which I am expecting from a banker that you should be able to know, because you are living in country. You should have a basic understanding of the country's economy. You should not be an economist, but you should be a citizen, and it is civic responsibility of us, and particularly a civic responsibility of professionals like you, right, to know this. Yes, Salongo. Piano.
Salary bill.
Ted.
Education.
Salary bill.
Sorry, you said the salary bill of whom?
Government.
Employees.
Okay, there are highly paid bankers here, no? So it's your money.
We have spent social services, health, education, like that.
Are you sure?
Imports expenditure.
Loan repayments.
Imports also, but I am asking what's the main one. Now, some of you said the health.
We have to pay.
Wait a minute.
Borrowings.
Wait a minute. Some of
Repayment of foreign debts.
That's another one. Repayment of debts, which is a new one. Now, I'm just trying to understand. One person of you said that health and education. Do you think we are spending sufficient money for health and education? If that is so, why this is problem with our 21 million population? Within no time we could be immunized for the COVID. And you have amply heard that that some of the hospitals, even in the rural areas, they don't even have a Panadol with them. So what is the main expenditure for us? I mean, all of you just said some point, but out of that, what's the number one expenditure? I would like at least few people trying out, right? I haven't heard anything from Sri Lal yet. Sri Lal?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Kian balan මොකක්ද අපේ තියෙන ලොකුම expenditure එක?
salaries to government employees.
Very good. අපි ඒක මෙහෙම කියමු. ඒක අතරම it's spot on. අපි ඒක කියනවා to maintenance of the government. This is the main problem. Actually, this problem normally we are not highlighting that much, right? Maintenance of the government. Actually, second burden is repayment of loans. Repayment of loans. And the third problem is, third outflow is for imports. And imports mainly for what?
Vehicle.
No, not vehicles. Not vehicles. What's the mandatory imports for us?
Consumer durables. Consumer durables.
Consumer goods also, yes, but what's the mandatory?
Medicine.
Fuel. Very good. Fuel, very primarily. 60% of our import will goes to fuel. Right. Now, let's try to understand this maintenance problem. Yeah, now Sri Lanka, we have a problem where we have, what's our Sri Lanka's population?
23 million?
21 million.
22.
21 million, not 21 million population we have. How many government servants do you think we have now?
450,000. 450,000.
No. Because government servants means all the teachers, doctors, the three forces, and all the people who are working in Pradeshya Sabha, Palat Sabha, and then all the other organizations, the ministries, nurses, everybody. Rule of thumb? Huh?
6 million?
No, not 6 million, no. It's less than 6 million. Somewhere around 1.8 million. Actually, the heart of Lanka Raja Sevakyo. Samani. They like them. Tawat Badiuna. Or some more than Niladari in Tawagatan. So 1.8 million people. But do you think how many pensioners we have?
5 lakhs.
Yeah, somewhere around 600,000. 5 lakhs or lakhs hayak kitarin. Then again, go to Karahama Kiga.
2.4.
2.4 million. So look at the statistics very carefully. Out of 21 million, 2.4 million is paid by the government of this country, or they are in the government salary bill. So what is the percentage ratio?
Nearly 10%.
Huh? Yeah, 1 into 9 approximately, right? Approximately 1 into 9. So that means every 9th person is paid by the government, right? If you really see the international best practices, international standard, this is 1 into 112. Can you believe? 1 into 112. Every 112th person should be, other one is the government servant. So problem in this country, which is very few of us really identify this problem, is that the Sri Lankan state or the government is too big to maintain. It's too much. What is the reason for this? What is the reason for this?
Politically influenced.
Yes,
Political influence.
Yeah, political influence in this way that you have to understand. A lot of people think that the government should be the employer. Actually, government should not be the employer. Employer of the country should be theoretically the private sector. Government only do the enabling work for them. But in Sri Lanka,
Attitude issues.
Huh?
Attitude issues.
Attitudes or whatever, the thing that, or the skill gap or whatever, that's the thing. So, because the thing is now what we are having is all these politicians, irrespective of whatever the political party, once they come to the power, they will give the government jobs, and the government infrastructure, government system is getting bloated, and it is becoming fat now. Now government we call the obesity of the government. Apa yang mereka menghemat kan efficiency ke mana bila tiada? Efficiency ke mana bila tiada tu sasik ke?
No.
Huh?
No.
Efficiency ke mana bila tiada? Efficiency ke mana bila ni? So it is actually other way, other. I mean, it's negatively affect to the efficiency. So the main problem actually Sri Lanka is we have this maintenance of big government. If you really understand the political economy, that we have a lot of multiple structures, right? Now, those days we had this whole system, the central government and with GAs. GA කියලා කියන්නේ දිසාපතිවරු. අපිට තිබුණා සුද්දාගේ කාලේ ඉඳලා system එකක් that every district has a district secretary or the DGA normally we call. දැන් කියන්නේ district එකම කියලා. ඉස්සර කිව්වේ දිසාපති කියලා ඉස්සරම කිව්වේ දිසාපති හාමුදුරුවෝ. Leonard Woolf ලා එම දිසාපති හාමුදුරුවෝ. කොයිද Leonard Woolf දිසාපති වෙලා හිටියේ මොන district එකද? කොහොමද කිව්වේ බැද්දේගම පොත? පොතක් පතක් නම් කියවන බව පේන්නේ නැහැ මේ බැංකර්ස්ලා මට නම් ඒකයි හිතට අමාරු මට ටිකක්.
Gold district. Gold district.
බැද්දේගම කවුද අර සිඩිදුල හැම හිටියේ කොහෙද?
හම්බන්තොට.
හම්බන්තොට very good. හම්බන්තොට district එකේ හිටියේ. අර විමල රත්න කුමාරගම කොහෙද හිටියේ? විමල රත්න කුමාරගම කියන්නේ කවුද? අනේ
කවි ලියපු කෙනෙක්.
විමල රත්න කුමාරගම කියන්නේ කොමේඩියන් කෙනෙක්ද? එහෙම කොමේඩියන් කෙනෙකුත් හිටියත් දන්නේ නැහැ. මම නම් දන්නේ නැහැ ඒක.
මානකරුවත් නොකර මේ ගැරහීම. මානකරුවත් නොකර මේ ගැරහීම මොකද්ද? කවි පන්තිය ලිව්වේ.
ඔව් විමල රත්න කුමාරගම කියන්නේ හොඳ කවියෙක්නේ. අයියනායක කවි පන්තිය කවුද ලිව්වේ?
අයියනායක.
කොමේඩියන් කෙනෙක්ද නැද්ද නම් මම දන්නේ සමහරට එහෙමත් වෙන්නේ නැද්ද නම් අයියනායක නේ විමල රත්න කුමාරගම ඒ මිනිස්සු හොඳ පරණ සිවිල් සර්වන්ට්ලා බලන්නේ දිසාපතිවරු කවියෝ. එතකොට ඒ වගේ මිනිස්සු තමයි හිටියේ දැන් ඉන්න දිසාපතිට දන්නේ නැහැ ඔය කිව්වාගේ කවිද ඒගොල්ලෝ නම් අන්න කොමේඩියන්ලා තමයි definitely right so so those are the people right so this is GA like ඔය Leonard Woolf කේම කියන්නේ ඉතින් හිටපු දිසාපති කෙනෙක් හැබැයි සුත්තේ හිටියේ ඒ දවස්වල ඊට පස්සේ එයාගේ කතාවනේ අර ඔය බැද්දේගමයි පස්සේ චිත්‍රපටි කරන්න නැගුවේ ඒක ඊට පස්සේ කතාව අතරේ දේව වෙනම කතා right okay what I wanted to tell is that what I'm trying to tell is that the A structure එක එහෙම තියෙදි now we have ප්‍රාදේශීය සභා කියලා තව structure එකක් ගන්නවා. So then we have පළාත් සභා there's another structure. So එක structure එකක් පිට තව structure එකක් දාලා ඔක්කොම නිකන් පැටලවිලා වගේ තමයි තියෙන්නේ. දැන් මේක සුද්ධ කරගන්නත් දරුවෝ ඉන්නේ. මොකද it's too much of people and there's no political leader will come with that political will to eradicate this because if you try to touch this you will not be elected for next time. What I'm trying to tell is Sri Lankan government is bloated. It's too much. ඒ මදි වඩා අමතිවරු කාර්යාලය ඔක්කොම වැඩි වෙනවා කියන්නේ මෙන්න මේක තමයි මේක අපිට වැඩි වෙලා තියෙන්නේ. ඒක මේ අපේ government එක manage කරන එක. මේක තමයි අතරම තියෙන්නේ. But unfortunately a lot of people don't think this. A lot of people do think that other things but they don't think that the government maintaining the government itself is the main problem of the government කියන එක තේරෙන්නේ. ඒක ඇත්තටම ඒක politicianලා තේරුම් අරගෙනත් නැහැ politicians වල වඩා politicians පත් කරලා එවන general public තේරුම් අරගෙනත් නැහැ අද වෙනකොට අපිට ඕනේ මම දන්නවා I have been lecturing in Jayawardhanapura University sometimes one student I know that he got a first class degree management branding එකේ job එකක් හම්බුණා 80000 salary එකක් ඒ 80000 salary එක දාලා ගියා මොකද්ද සංවර්ධන සහායක කියලා මේකට 22000 රුපියල් පඩිය. අහුවාම කියන්නේ මොකද්ද මේ නැස පෙන්ෂන් එකක් තියෙනවා. පෙන්ෂන් එකක් තියෙනවා කියලා ගියා. ඒතකොට සංවර්ධන සහායක මේකට රුපියල් 22000 80000 ජොබ් එක දාලා. ඉතින් මේ වගේ ඔච්චර කෙනෙක් මේ වගේ එහෙම වෙනවා ඇත්ත I don't know right that's the thing so there are a lot of things sometimes parents වේලා push කරනවා some people they want stable jobs and all other but this is the situation, right? Okay, this is the maintenance. Now, before we take a short break, repayment of loans. Loans වල ප්‍රශ්නේ මොකද ලංකාවේ? කාටද කියන්න loans වල තියෙන ප්‍රශ්නේ මොකක්ද කියලා?
We take loans, but those funds are not properly invested, so we can't repay those. So that means that a proper income is not generated.
Why is that? Why is that? Who said that answer? උත්තරේ දුන්නේ කවුද? මිස් කවුද? නම මොකක්ද?
Rajmali.
Rajmali, yes. Why you said like that? අපි මේ ගත්ත දැන් අපිට මේ loans වල මේක it's a very important question, right? In respect of the SME. දැන් අයි අපිට මේ loans මේක ප්‍රශ්නයක් වෙලා තියෙන්නේ.
We don't make any income from what we have expended.
We don't make any income. Why is that? What's your name? Manaram, right?
Sajiv. Yeah, Sajiv.
Huh?
Sajiv.
Sajiv. Yes, Sajiv. Yeah.
Sir, most of the loans are it is a ගොඩක් loans යොදවලා තියෙන capital investment වලට. ඒවයි දැන් වර්තමාන ආදායමක් නැහැ. ඒක තමයි වෙලා තියෙන්නේ.
හරි. උදාහරණයක් කියන්න බලන්න මේ වගේ එකකට.
highway roads. අපිට පස්සේ ඉහළ කොත්මලේ ඒ වගේ ඒවා income එකේ ඉන්නේ ගොඩක් කාලයක් ගියාට පස්සේ.
Okay, very good. Okay, so that means income is not generating, but we have spent that point. Okay, what is that? What is Ms. Satyavani? What is your point of view? Can you be a little bit vocal now, Satyavani? Can you hear us? Immediately dropped. Mr. Rajmohan?
Yes, sir. Like somebody said, the capital investment might be taking a long time to actually generate income. At the same time, we also don't know whether at the evaluation stage, whether all these were considered when such huge capital expenses were made.
Mr. Subhasha Fernando, what do you think? Subhasha?
Sorry, කලින්
Subhasha, sorry.
loans මේ අරගෙන තියෙන කියන capital expenditure වලට ඒවල income එක generate වෙන්න කල් යනවා and most of the loans are used for personal things මේ කියන්නේ not for investment purpose.
Eternity, it's a very good point. It's better to understand or analyze that situation a little bit carefully before we take a break. Then අපි දන්නවා previous time with Mahinda Rajapaksa, this government, not this time but the previous time, borrowed a lot of loans. What I'm talking is some after 2009 to 2010, 11, 12, 13 to develop the country. So most of these loans were Chinese loans. So these were sovereign loans, Chinese loans. Why government, if at all, had to borrow from China? What was the reason?
That is basically all other countries. They have make conditions for that our ethnic problem and the investment. Chinese that time helped us to manage the ethnic problem.
Okay, I think that's a very, very good answer, right? Because most of the other countries or the other institutions, they wanted to support us, or rather if we go and ask their support, what they said was, okay, Sri Lanka, we will support you, but you have to make sure that certain conditions after the war you have to adhere. Like how we treat on war criminals, or whether there would be a trans judiciary system, how we treat the the war-affected people, particularly ex-combatants, and so there are a number of other things, human rights and all of them. So right or wrong, these countries, particularly USA, Europe countries, World Bank, IMF, that sort of a country, organizations, they also imposed, as you correctly said, a lot of these conditions. I mean, right or wrong is a different question. I mean, it's a political question I don't want to take up here. That is not our mandate in the class. Having said that, most of these countries are the #1 human rights violators in the world, right? But they don't damn care of their violation. They always come and poke the fingers and try to teach the small and vulnerable countries to do that, but they are doing all the bad things. That's how the world is anyway operating. But having said that, so they said, but Chinese at that point, so they didn't bother about all these things. They didn't bother about human rights. They didn't bother about a transjudicial system or others. So they said, okay, we will give loans. But the Chinese loans that we borrowed, it has two very toxic conditions. Two toxic conditions. #1, they were short term. Now, short term means a relatively. Now, normally the loans that we got from Mahavali and all of that, it was around somewhere around 30 years repayment period. But most of these Chinese loans, it's for around 10 to 12 years. It's short term loans. Second, these Chinese loans were high interest rate. Normally, it was somewhere around 6 to 8%. Now, 6 to 8, you would say it's not a high interest rate, but if you really think on sovereign rates, it's a high amount. Normally, for Mahavali and all other, the interest rate that we got is 2%, 2.5%, something like that. So compared to that, this is things. And I mind you, these are dollars. And these are billions. So $1 billion loan for a minus percentage of interest means a lot of money, right? So you could see these Chinese loans were anyway double murder. But then at that time, we did not have option. We had to borrow from China. So this is one mistake we have done. So after that mistake, we have done another blunder, which I think some of the colleagues have just mentioned. We invested those loans to a very long-term projects. Now, students, you have to understand, when it's come to finance, there's something called asset and liability matching, or in other words, asset and liability mismatching. Can any one of you tell what does it mean? Asset liability mismatching kiyala kiyane moqadda?
Short-term fund used to long-term needs.
Harani, solunga.
Short-term funds used to long-term needs.
Yeah, so that you know in the banking, so that you borrow short-term, but you invest in
long-term is wrong.
Yeah. So thoroughly, what would happen if that is if you done that?
We are unable to repay the loan on time because that the long terms need time to generate the income. Then we are unable to meet the loan repayment.
Exactly. Very good. So that means investment would take a lot of time to make income, but on the other hand, your liabilities on this get matured. Because now when it's come to a harbor or when it's come to a airport, to generate income and to generate positive cash flow, you would take a lot of time. Right, I mean, it is not something very quickly break even, right? I mean, as I've told, even if you just set up a petika day here, right, or a small boutique, it would also take around 6 months to be break even, because immediately today, if you start the business, tomorrow you will not get money or generate funds or generate profits rather, right? So it would incur losses, but then you will take it later on. So what had happened was the short-term loans we use for long-term investment, and the investment is yet to really get for 30 years, 25 to 30 years. But then loan is being matured. So now, as you, some of you very correctly said, we are in a situation where loans are matured. Then that's name විතර ගත්තේවා දැන් 19 20 21 දැන් mature වෙගෙන යන කාලේ දැන් තමයි අපිට අමාරුම කාලේ තියෙන්නේ. Right? මේක ගොඩ දාගත්තොත් ටිකක් shape එක යන්න පුළුවන් වෙයි. දැන් ගොඩ දාගන්න හැටි තමයි බලන්න ඕනේ. So all these loans are maturing now, but then අපිට income එකක් නැහැ. Airport එකෙන් එන්නේ ආවෙත් නැහැ එන්නෙත් නැහැ. About making any income. So then that is the one that we are having a repayment. So we don't have sufficient income to repay the loan. And on the other hand, to add that, corruption related issues also there. Corruption related issue, I would say like that, because some of you said that some of these loans been 100% properly utilized, still a question mark. Right, still is a question mark, and whether there is some hidden cost commissions or something like that, still a question mark. Nobody knows. So this is also happened, and that as a result of that, repayment of loans have become a big problem as of now. Any comment on this? I would like that you comment, right? So this is higher education. I would like that at least 1-2 people comment on that, and may I ask from Mr. Asanka Kalupahana, any comment on this? Kalupahana, are you there? Or you are not responding? Asanka Samira?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
I'm here.
Huh? Any comment? What's your comment, Puta? Samira, Asanga? No comment there.
Hello.
Yeah. I'm asking, what is your comment?
So apart from those issues, these Chinese people, their specialist knowledge for those projects also come from the Chinese. So no Sri Lankan ones are, very few Sri Lankans are involved in these projects.
Yeah, so that's also another problem where this, I mean, all these projects were there. So the employment employability is provided by China. So the benefit of that, whatever had been going to the Sri Lankan people was less, because most of these are built by Chinese, right?
Plus, my opinion is now we have to borrow again at another higher rate to repay these loans. So we are in a debt trap.
We are in a debt trap now. Now that is the thing. Now we have recently also borrowed from China. No.
China. Now we are going. I saw now today we are going to borrow another 1.5 billion, because we have yesterday also we have repay 400 million for India, and again we are out of our reserve. So we are going to borrow another 1.5 billion from China.
So what to do now?
විකුණලා දාන්න තියෙන්නේ. Easy.
Huh?
විකුණන්න තියෙන්නේ. Debt to equity.
Convert debt to equity.
Yeah, what else? That's why Chinese strategy, no? Everyone
Okay,
knows
what is Mr. Chalit's view on that? Why are you not responding? I mean, that's the most annoying thing that I could imagine. And I will now make a note of people.
Sir,
Anna Chalit, yes. Kian.
Sir, I agree with him. And the main thing is, I think corruptions are the main reason for we face these difficulties in our economy right now. We have to increase our export, I think, sir.
Okay, that is one thing, yes.
Other thing, I think, sir, we have to renegotiate the terms of these debts.
Exactly. That is a very, very important point. We have to really renegotiate with China to reschedule these loans, actually.
Yeah,
because the thing is, yeah. No, because the thing is, Yeah. So please tell.
Yeah. To reschedule these loans, otherwise we are in a huge problem. No?
Yes, we would be in a big problem.
Sir,
Roshan,
every project we are doing feasibility reports and analyzing income, periods, all these things. No, these things are doing. I think expert people. Why we are only behaving politicians?
that's a good question. So that's a good question, because why? I mean, even for a small investment, we are doing that. I mean, this is pretty explicit that you are going for a certain liability mismatching. I mean, I know, because I've been to a certain extent know this information, these things, and some things I cannot tell, and some things I can tell. Because the thing is, I mean, before I mean, this is a, I will sometimes it's a politically sensitive one, but I mean, I will give one example for you. This Hambantota Harbour, what had happened, and then I will reserve my comments afterwards. Now, Hambantota Harbour. Now, this is Sri Lanka, right? I'm sorry of my drawings, right? Sorry. This is Hambantota. Now, Hambantota Harbour, what's the earlier name for Hambantota? We have 4 harbors in the country. What are these 4 harbors? And some of you are there in Madagal. Jambakolapatu. Jambakolapatu. Mekan mokada kiwe. Mana arakata kiwe mokada. Isara parana wachana.
Talamana.
Yeah, Talemana, but parana earlier word for this. Mahathita. Mahathita. This one, Gokhanna. I'm talking about those days, and this is Mathota, right? Magama, Ruhunu Maga, right? So these are actually the whole four what you call the harbors in the country, which Sri Lanka had become a navigation hub in those days, right? So what I'm telling is, if you really want to develop the country, better develop all these 4 harbors. Within no time, the country will develop. But the problem is, now we are having the problem with the Colombo Port, the East Terminal. Now you know what is this. Colombo Port is, of course, subsequently made one, right? Fine. So now we got this loan, and then there was, I know a lot of people said, once you borrow this loan, rather than having a new harbor in Hambantota, try to revitalize, try to invest that money to the Colombo Port, which is, of course, now we have all issues, and develop that, because then Colombo Port is already an existing one. So then you can use that and invest and generate more money. But then those days, Mr. President Rajapaksa thought, no, we have to have a separate harbor, which is there. The argument is, if you have a harbor here, now in this Indian Ocean, there's this ship line. It's normal because this is 6th degree terminal. So now if you go to Hambantota and see one, you can see the naked eye, the ships are moving. So then we can attract those ships. So why not then we have another harbor? So if you were president, or if you were the decision maker at that point, what you would like to do? To set up a new harbor, or to invest into the Colombo harbor?
If I'm from Hambantota, I will invest for a new harbor.
You will invest for Hambantota, right?
If I am from Hambantota.
Huh?
If I am from Hambantota, I will invest in a new harbor at Hambantota.
Because you want to do something for your village, no, or your area.
Yeah.
Okay. Others, what you do? So no, that's the thing. So what's your name? Who's from Hambantota? What's your name, Puta?
No, I'm not from Hambantota. I'm Sajeev.
Sorry?
Sajeev, but I am not from Hambantota. I said if I am from Hambantota.
If you are, sorry. If you are, all right. If you are from Hambantota, right? Yeah. So President Rajapaksa, yes, he's coming from Ruhuna. So he thought, yes, it's better that we build the harbor there. So then we built the harbor. The harbor built, there was a bit of an issue. Underground, there's a big rock here, right? So as somebody said, that this been captured in the feasibility study, but the feasibility report is missing. Anyway, you know what had happened. So once this harbor been built, and this rock is not visible, actually it's underground, but then built, and then we wanted to get the admiralty certificate to harbor the ships, the commercial ships. The Lloyd's, the reinsurance company, did not issue that certificate because of this rock. So then, now we have already borrowed somewhere around $400 million to the harbor. So then engineers said, okay, what to do? And then of course, as some of you said, this harbor was building by Chinese. And China said, okay, fine. We can do the drilling or whatever, the removal of the rock, because removal has to be done on a professional manner. And the total cost estimated was somewhere around $160 million million dollars, huh? And if Sri Lanka, if you want, we can give another loan to do this. So now what we have done, so now we have borrowed initially 400 million, and then we, on top of that, we borrowed 160 billion again, and again awarded to China to remove the hook, or create like a path like this, something like this. So that's what I'm saying. This is how these things happen. So then what's now the total cost of the harbor now? What's the total cost of the harbor? 560 million. So that is where you have to understand whether those things, whether it makes sense or not. And then, I mean, after you have this, there are a lot of issues, and still we have this problem. Now, still the sand is coming through this to this harbor, and then that's why Hambantota harbor we are having a huge problem, because it's very difficult to harbor the big ships to Hambantota, unfortunately, because of this. Any comment on that? Because this rock is been there for thousands of years. If you see really that even Vihara Mahadevi also is supposed to come on this route, because at that time, because maybe because of this rock or whatever, the tidal waves and all other for that area has been not that strong, right? I don't know. I mean, those are what says in the history, but this rock is a fact, and that had happened something like that, right? So that is what my point, that even though that we think that is feasible, sometimes, I mean, the harbor then theoretically you could have built for 400 or 500 for $400 million. Now it has been double or triple and all, so like something like that. So I'm discounting all the other corruptions here. So if there's any corruption also happen, that this might go even further, right? So as somebody of you said, now we are in a situation, yes, either we have to really renegotiate the loans, or we have to convert the debt to equity, which is selling of the country, which is again not a good thing, right? So we are in a very difficult crossroads now. Roshan, any comment on that? Samaranayaka?
Yes, sir. And I think our exchange, foreign exchange also occurs to increasement of that government expenses, sir. And dollar is
Oh yes,
going up.
මේක ණය ගෙවනකොට අපේ ඩොලර්ස් ටික යනවනේ රටින්. එතකොට අපේ කරන්සි එකත් ණය වෙනවනේ.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Anybody? Utpala Gunawardana? Utpala Gunawardana. Would like to comment? Hari. Right. එහෙනම් අපි එතනින් නවත්තමු. ඊළඟ අන්තිම එක තමයි the imports. Imports we will have mainly oil. So import expenditure we cannot reduce, because anyway we have to import oil. So those are the main reasons for recurrent expenditure. Okay, we'll take a short 30 minutes break, right? And then we come to this part, and then we'll try to finish it off today, the fiscal policy session. And if you have any questions, After the break, please ask. So I will be coming at 3:45 again, right? If you need any cup of tea or if you haven't ate or anything, please do that. So we have a little bit of a longer break because I also need it because of talking to a machine is too difficult. So around 3:45, 3:50, we will start the session again. And then if you have any questions, please ask me at that point. Right? Thank you. Tax. What is the problem of our taxation? Anyone?
Leakage.
What do you mean by leakage?
Most of the members are not paying tax or genuinely paying tax.
Okay, yeah, that's true to a certain extent because most of the people who are supposed to pay tax in this country are not paying tax. So that is actually one of the great problem here. Now, when it's how if you really analyze this, actually, what is taxation? What's the logic of taxation? The logic of taxation is that because the taxation is not a new topic, right? It's not a new concept. Now, even Kautilya's Arthashastra and even Sri Lanka those days, if you really see the Thonigala, Sellipia and all other, so those are really fiscal policy measures, right? Taxation. So taxation, the whole logic is that the responsibility of the state or the king is to create the enabling environment where entrepreneurs to make money. So entrepreneurs are supposed to make money. But out of these entrepreneurs making money, the portion of this money, you have to take it out from them without damaging to them. And then you have to give it to the benefit of the people. Why this thing had to be done? What is the sociological impact of this? What is the sociological impact of this? Dilshan? What's the sociological impact of this?
To mitigate the income level.
Yeah, to mitigate income level, because otherwise what would happen, there would be a lot of social disparity happen. You know, the previous discussion that we had, and then you have all the other issues relating to the social strata and all of this. So this is what we have to do. So that means if you are earning more, you have to pay more taxes, right? So higher the income, higher the tax, lower the income, lower the tax, further lower the income, further lower the tax, or you don't have to pay tax, and furthest lower the income, you have to get the tax benefits, right? So this is how it's called. So it is part of the society's to retain the social fabric. So very important thing in this context, the taxation should be, we call it progressive tax. Taxation should be progressive. What do you mean by progressive? Is that depending on your income, you are paying your tax. So normally in modern world, the progressive taxation for you, this is for your information, we call this tape system. Please make a note of that, tape system. So tape means, T means transparency, A means accountability, predictability P, E means equity. So these are the things that in a proper taxation that you should have. A, it should be transparent. B, it should be transparent means that everybody should know like how their tax being calculated, and there should be a proper mechanism of tax tables, tax calculations and all of that. A, accountability. Accountability means there should be a proper way of making accountable so state is really accountable to use your tax money properly, wisely. Predictability means there should not be this haphazard way of taxes, the other tax or something like that. And then equity means this is that in progressive. So that means equity is actually equality and fairness. Equity කියන වචනේ තේරුම equality සමානාත්මතාවය and fairness also. So සමානාත්මතාවය, you don't have to understand it something like that everybody is equal. If everybody should be equal, but in fair grounds. So in that context, very important thing in this taxation, it's called progressive tax. So that means tax has to be levied upon the level of income. So give some example type of taxes for progressive taxes.
Payee tax.
Payee is a progressive tax. Income tax is a progressive tax. And then corporation tax, it's a progressive tax, right? But having said that, in Sri Lanka, our tax regime is not. Our 80% of Sri Lanka's tax regime is not progressive tax. Our tax regime, we call it's a regressive tax system, regressive taxation. Other side of the regressive. So can you please explain, one of you, what do you mean by a regressive tax then? What do you mean by regressive tax? So that means tax is not levied upon income, but levied upon what? If you carefully analyze the Sri Lankan system, you would be able to know like how tax being paid in this country. How tax being paid in this country? Our Sri Lankan tax system is more consumer-based or consumer-oriented tax. So that means if you are importing goods, the government is taking tax. So that is what we call the regressive tax. So now, for example, why I'm telling it's regressive, every kilo of dal that you are eating, you are paying 23 rupees tax for that. Every milk powder, one kilo that you are, or not 1 kilo, this 450 gram pack, you are paying somewhere around 25 rupees tax. Every loaf of bread that you are eating, you are paying 11 rupees tax. I mean, it's not like that, but if you really factor all these import taxes, you are paying tax. Every petrol liter that you are pumping, you are paying somewhere around 42 rupees tax. So problem of Sri Lankan tax is Sri Lankan tax regime is like that. So what is the problem there actually? So then you can argue, no, okay, fine, government need money. So then what's the problem there? What's the problem of this taxation? Khalid?
That will impact to low income earners.
Very good, exactly. So that means that the percentage of income paying for taxation are highest among the poor people. So that's the real problem. Now let's say, for example, if you are normally Sri Lankan people, we are very much like to eat parippu, no? So if you are eating parippu or dal, either you are a super rich person or you are a middle class or you are a poor person, only you are eating parippu or pang or something like that, you are paying the same amount of tax. If you are pumping petrol for your vehicle, which is a three-wheeler or a Toyota or a Maruti or a Lamborghini, you are paying the same tax. So where's the equity? So in this country, most poor people are paying more taxes than the rich people. So this is the problem of taxation. So please make an extreme note of that taxation. So that is why Sri Lanka, I mean, generally Sri Lankan taxation is less reduced. But then even though the taxes, existing taxes, 80% of the tax are regressive. Now, let me ask a question. If you want to really increase or improve the Sri Lankan tax system, what would be the things that you could do? Give me some examples. If you want to improve the Sri Lankan tax system, what you should do?
Link all banks, Indian Revenue Department, and customs, all three departments into a one link.
Okay. Why is that? Who said that?
Sajiva. So we can, that we can, from the NIC number, we can trace the people who are imports and custom income and the other bank transaction, everything we can monitor.
Exactly. Yes. So I think you are spot on. One of the main problem of Sri Lanka's taxation is that we are not. I mean, our Indian revenue is not properly computerized. So, as Sachin, as you very correctly said, we have one unique thing called national identity card number. So, if we can have some mechanism where, as you said, all these organizations linked to a centralized system where NIC office, where passport office or Department of Immigration and Immigration, Inland Revenue, Customs, banks, what else?
RMB.
RMB.
Hospitals.
Land registry.
Yeah.
Hospitals.
Yeah, hospital is fine, but at least these things, land registry, where you have your proper. So if you have one main solid, I mean, maybe each one might have a different system, but at least if you can have a connector software, which you can do that. So that means now, no sooner person issued with NIC, that e-file been open in every institutions in his name, NIC number, the serial number. If that particular person go and purchase a vehicle, it's immediately, where's that? RMB, it's been updated and all other things automatically updated. It's an e-file, so don't worry. We don't have to no physical thing. If you got a job, when you registered for job, immediately whatever, so it's been registered. So then everybody are in the tax net. But in Sri Lankan context, what is happening is people are avoiding taxes because we don't have this sort of a system. And Sri Lanka, unfortunately, now there's one movement is going, but Sri Lanka's Inland Revenue is most inefficient organization in the country. One of the things, because so then you don't collect tax revenue, and customs is one of the most corrupted organization in the country. So then you cannot expect that, right? So a lot of government revenue in that sense, of course, leaking because of this. Right. Coming back to, of course, remittances is reasonably okay. Remittances means that the Sri Lankan go and works in other countries and they will send money. So reasonability, so it was okay, but now it's a problem. Now currently why we are having a problem of that?
Because of the corona pandemic.
Yeah, because of the corona pandemic, a lot of people had to come. So it's estimated it's approximately 800,000 people have to come to the country. So their income is less. So that's the thing. I mean, that is a huge problem now we have for our foreign currencies, because people who earn and send dollars to the country had stopped a lot of these things because of a lot of these issues. So that is what we are having, right? Okay, so that's a problem. Okay, FDIs. Again, we have a problem. Why is that? Why we don't attract FDIs as we think? Remittances are relatively okay, but when it comes to FDI, why the FDIs are not attracted as we think?
Country downgraded. Country downgraded.
Excuse me.
Yeah. Countries downgrading of sovereign. It will actually, it will not really. I mean, it will affect, but it's more effect to the loans put up. It will affect on our rates for the loans, not else. Somebody else just said something.
Most of the Sri Lankan expatriates are not sending their money to the country.
Okay,
and
why is that?
They will send those things in foreign countries.
Okay, why is that? Why do you think like that happening?
Because they may earn higher returns by investing in dollar accounts somewhere else.
Okay, so that is one point. I mean, which is a little bit related to the remittances issue, but what I'm thinking is general FDIs, general foreign direct investments. Why we are not getting? We want that. I mean, even previous government thriving, or we are aiming for FDIs.
Central Bank, excuse me, Central Bank is initiating certain accounts to remit funds through local banks by the overseas expatriates, but still most of the remittance are going elsewhere.
Yeah, why? Okay, no, that is still it's remittances, right? Yeah, because the thing is that that's a different story. But what I'm asking is more FDIs, foreign direct investment. Foreign direct investment is that you are come and invest in a country to set up a factory or set up something like that. Not like the individual.
Politics system is not stable.
Business opportunities are reduced.
Excuse me.
Sri Lanka does not have stable policies. I mean, the long-term policies that depends on the governments and etc.
Frequent change in the policies.
Okay, one thing is Sri Lanka doesn't have strong policies. That's one answer. What's the other one?
Business opportunities are reduced.
Nimal, what you said? Business opportunities are less. Okay, what else?
Yeah.
There are some rules and regulations over foreign investments. Social and,
okay, rules and regulation, but still, I mean, anyway, that you have to have rules and regulation. Okay, fine. It's a good answer. So, but for attract FDIs, what exactly you should have?
We should have the confidence of the systems and procedures of Sri Lanka to attract more investments from expatriates.
Okay, what sort of a confidence, Chandima?
Maybe expected returns not arise.
Expected
returns.
So we should have stringent policies to attract more and more investors through local banks.
Okay, well, you are still talking about the banks, which is fine, but what I'm talking about is much more broader sense of investments, right? True. Very, very important point here when it's come to FDIs that you should understand. It's that the word we call it competitive advantage. Competitive advantage. So actually, most FDIs we are not receiving because we don't create or we don't be able to show a strong competitive advantage of ourselves or as Sri Lanka to foreigners. What do you mean by competitive advantage? This is actually a theory of competitive advantage. Is one of economic theory also, but anyone can think what do you mean by competitive advantage? It's a common sense answer.
Due to the strategic location of the country, we can attract, we can establish
advantage that can be differs from other countries. The unique advantage that the investors can find.
Very good, very good. Yes. So competitive advantage, very simply meaning, like what is our uniqueness? Why Sri Lanka is unique to compare to other people or other countries?
We should relax our taxation, but the thing is, I think our labor cost is also a little bit high when compared to Myanmar and Bangladesh. Most of the investors are going for Myanmar and Bangladesh because the labor cost. Plus, that when it's come to get the approval, it will take about 1.5 years to get some environment approval and everything. We should make it one authority, so then investor can give their proposal and directly they can have the approval within 2 or 3 months. Now it seems from your Pradesh Sabha, then it's come to cabinet, then it's come to that environment authorities. There are so many approval things we have to done, so we have to relax those things also.
Exactly. I think that's quite a comprehensive answer. I really appreciate that. So please write the competitive advantage. The meaning of competitive advantage is that, okay, as somebody of you said, what is our uniqueness? Why somebody should come to Sri Lanka? So really thinking competitive advantage. So then what are the factors that country can get a competitive advantage? And some of you, what's very important, the low cost labor. So availability of low cost labor is been ever time higher competitive advantage to any country. So you could see some countries like, I mean, some of you said, okay, political stability, the transparency and all of that, which is also a good things. I'm not denying that. But some countries you could see even are less transparent, less politically stabilized, but still attract FDIs because of this, because of low cost labor. Why? One of the very great driver of international business is cost leadership. Cost leadership is that ability to manufacture goods and services at a cheapest possible cost. Because you know, as consumers, I as a consumer, we like to consume a good which is of good quality, but at a cheapest price. So that is where I would like myself to be pitching. So in such situation, low cost labor is very important thing that we should have. But as one of you said very correctly, compared to some of our competitors like India, Bangladesh, Vietnam, Laos, and all other Myanmar and all other countries, that our labor is now not competitive. Our labor costs are high. Sri Lanka's labor costs are high. I mean, simple answer is that I mean, a mason bus. If you really want to retain a mason bus, how much you have to pay? 2,000, 3,000 and all of that. I mean, then, because then, I mean, if you want to get some other help, maybe like a domestic help per day, how much you have to pay? It's a big amount. And even though that you are willing to pay that, sometimes you might not be able to get a person. You might not be able to get a good plumber or good electrician. You still have that problem. So the low cost labor is one of the main problem that drives that we are running about competitive advantage. But you can say now Germany, the labor is not low cost, but then what they have other than that? What is a counter? Huh?
Infrastructure facilities?
No, the skills. So our problem is no skill labors. Now skill, so maybe Sri Lanka our labor might be skilled compared to Bangladesh or Myanmar or whatever. But then in that context, if our worker to consider for the developed country like even Singapore, Taiwan, South Korea, that situation, we are not skilled enough. So unfortunately, but the long story short, that what I wanted to tell is that Sri Lanka is in a very much a trapping situation where on one hand, from the one bunch of people, we are not competitive in labor-wise because our labor is expensive. But on the other hand, this labor is not skillful as the other bunch of the other side, which are representing the transitional countries or the emerging economies. So we are a little bit in between. So we have to find a solution for this. I mean, definitely this will not be a solution because we cannot do the low cost labor. But definitely in future we have to, in future and even now, we have to skill our labor, skill our workforce, including you, and we have to really reskill them, more skill them, and then be able to be more skillful. So that is why I'm also always telling you also, always to be, it's very important that you reskill yourselves, you relearn something, you do something new and all other. So that's why I'm really appreciating most of you of coming and participating in this sort of a class, even though some of you are having 30 years, 20 years, 25 years of experience, because sometimes by now you would realize how much you don't know of the general knowledge. You might be confined into your banking and you're the branch banking and all that, it's fine. But branch banking, it's not the end of the world. The knowledge out there in economics, politics, and all other, it's much more. So that is the good thing of you. At least you come and try to do something. But on the other hand, look at a lot of people, they don't want to do that. And in Sri Lanka, of course, we know the skill education, or rather the technical and vocational education is a big problem. And we don't have much education on that. And people who are anyway having a good technical TVET education through some organizations like German Tech and all other, you know what is happening, they're migrating. So we are having this now, and we call the cost versus skill gap. It's called cost skill gap. We have to somehow to arrest this situation. Okay. Other than that, infrastructure play a role. Okay, in Sri Lanka, relatively we are okay. I mean, I am not saying we are the best, but relatively. So infrastructure should be further developed, telecommunication, power, and all of that, particularly the power, energy cost, telecommunication, telecom, energy, and telecom, energy, and transportation, basically. Sorry, transportation, and transport again, sea, another one is air. So this infrastructure, so sea, air, and road. Telecommunication play a bigger role. Another one is this doing business index, this transparency and all of the issues that you mentioned has to be there. And very important other thing which we are having is our physical location. Physical location. So no, that is what I have been telling always to my students at master's level and some of the university students. Good economics is good politics. Good politics is good economics. Unfortunately, our politicians don't understand this. Politicians who understood this concept of good economics is good politics is good economics is ours for people like Lee Kuan Yew, Park Chung-hee, and all other people. So that's how they have driven their economy, or they have driven their country to successful. So it is a responsibility of the politicians to see as a country where we have the competitive advantage and where we have to improve ourselves. That is unique to a country, that is unique to a company, and that is unique to a bank, and that is unique to people also for you. So what you are now doing is you are increasing your competitive advantage by acquiring another qualification which others might not have. So if you have experience, if you have a degree, if you have other qualification, if you have a professional qualification, and if you have this qualification also, it would boost your career and all. Because unless you focus very strongly on your competitive advantage in future, you will not be able to sustain, and as well as a country. So in Sri Lanka, I will open the discussion for a while. How do you think that we can improve our competitiveness or competitive advantage? Can any one of you tell a little bit of your thoughts? Can any one of you tell how we increase our competitive advantage?
So as you mentioned in red color, the location.
Class se kakake.
Okay, location. What is the importance of our location? I think once I try to tell this. What's the importance of our location?
The shipping lines.
Yeah, we are in the very important shipping line or shipping process of the Indian Ocean. So we should definitely capitalize that. So how we should capitalize this location?
There is a concept called hub concept.
Okay, what is that, Dilshan?
All the sea freight and air freight and all together. I think Dubai is practicing now it, and we have to do it in Hambantota. I think that was the plan. I don't know how much it has prospered or whatever. I think that was the plan. airport and the harbor and the highways.
Okay. But is this happening?
And there is a enterprise trade, I mean that, which is related to logistics.
Exactly. Very good. No, that is actually a very good point, because we consider, or we thought, or we are thinking that trade is as we export things. So that means we have to manufacture them and we have to export, but not necessary. Export is a minor component of international trade. Now, I've been specializing in international trade for last 5 years in my career. Been worked with Geneva, with WTO, and with all organizations. And then I increasingly realized trade is much more broader sense. So as Mr. Dilshan just said, Dilshan and Mr. Nandasena, so this have you heard something called transshipment?
Yes, sir.
What is that?
We
have
unload
import.
cargo from our ports and reship to another country.
Exactly. So that means we are a hub kind of a place. Now, let's say, for example, I told this, sometimes if Holland, they want some flowers, we might not able to send all the orchid flowers or whatever, but what we can do is we can create a hub or a place where we get all the flowers from Bangladesh, Thailand, and all other. Then we do the processing, but it's you have to have a proper infrastructure to do that. We could do the processing, and then we can export to that. Or maybe like say if you have the cinnamon, so part of the cinnamon wants to Germany, another part you want to England, some part of the United States, and all of that. So Sri Lanka, we manufacture cinnamon, and then we can get the cinnamon from other countries, but maybe not quality as our product. So then we can officially grade them into things, and sometimes we get cassia, which is a substitute of cinnamon. We have to be very transparent. We have to do the quality checking, we have to do the packaging, we have to do the labeling, and then we can export them to others. So that particular business, it's not really export, it is transshipment business, interport business. So that is why the Sri Lanka will initially, in future, will play a bigger role in that. So if at all, if Sri Lanka should need the investment, we need for actually the ports. So that is where this whole tug of war between China, Japan, and India is now taking place, because they want to invest to our ports, because that they know that will be a big business in future. Unfortunately, we have, as some of you said, we have lost few, coming as a FDI and investing, which is this East Terminal Adani is trying to do, is a different thing. Because you are coming and put your money, once you make money, you take it out, and a portion will be to the return in the country. That to a certain extent, you cannot tell as actually a selling of the thing, right? Where you ask to come and invest. I mean, you can interpret it in different way. But when it's come to Hambantota, what had happened, we sold the port. Why we could not pay the loan? I mean, 45% we sold to the China merchant, which is a problem. Are you getting my point? So now Sri Lanka having that attraction from China and India and all of that. If Sri Lanka, if we want to really be very diplomatic here, we have to be extremely diplomatic and manage interest, because each country, they don't come to our to support us. They have their own interest. But we have to play against each other. We have to play against India, against China professionally, right? USA against China, China against some other, and then we have to make sure. So, but for that, we have to have very good and competent politicians who thinks economics, good economics is good politics is good economics. Do you think we have such strong politicians? What do you think?
Yes, we have certain number of politicians, a handful of politicians who really loves for the country, and they decides on future generations, and some are not.
Okay, so what you have to do, Mr. Chandival?
We'll have to from the primary school education, we should have some sort of national policy towards generating indigenous values and culture, and we have to change our policies accordingly.
And so I have to make sure that you create politicians like that, very intelligent politicians, right? So then to make this country, so what I want to tell is to use this as a good opportunity and then drive the economy, right? So that's the thing. I mean, now let's say even this China thing, I could see a lot of potential, as I told, because Sri Lanka is in between. China is there, Africa is there. China is eyeing on Africa. So why not we can be interport or the transshipment for port for that? And India is looking for that. India is also balanced China in Hambantota. So why not we deal with India and make something? But we have to be excited. I mean, not to sell the country, but this is very risky thing. Our Dalipian Kirikana wage wala. Habi tika make a karan no ni. Habi tika karan for the ministutika politicians atika. Habi pat karagan no ni. Pat karagatta the nedda kiyane kiting. Tama nanapamaning salaka balatwa. Eka mama metana comment karan niya. But I'm giving some insights to you. So this is where we have to do. Other thing is definitely we should upskill the labor force. Api godak 4IR. 4IR kya ni mokadda? IR kya ni industrial revolution. Paleveni industrial revolution neka koi aur de dati une? Subject kan pita hapo gamam upset.
Barter system.
1930s.
Barter system.
Huh?
Barter system.
Barter system is something else ne pota. Paleveni karmika viplava ඇති උනේ මොන අවුරුද්දද?
1930s.
කාර්මික විප්ලවය ඇති උනේ 1930. First
1760s.
Huh?
1760s.
Not 1700. 1700s වල නැහැනේ මේ හොයාගෙන තිබුණ නැහැනේ prerequisite එක. මොකක්ද පළවෙනි prerequisite එක කාර්මික විප්ලවයට? ගල්ලඟුරු සොයා ගැනීම. ගල්ලඟුරු සොයාගෙන කවුද who invented the steam engine? Person called? General knowledge. Steam engine. Huh?
Stevenson.
Okay. Who's the main guy? James Watt, right? James Watt is a steam engine, transportation. So that is the first industrial revolution. Second industrial revolution came that we discovered electricity. Third industrial revolution came with the introduction of ICT industry, computers. And the fourth industrial revolution, now we are in the fourth industrial revolution, which we talk about internet, we talk about big data, we talk about robotics, we talk about AI, artificial intelligence, we talk about genetic engineering. So that is where the country's the labor force has to be developed. So it is education, school education, STEM education. It's very important. What is STEM again? මේ ඩිවලොප්මන්ට් පර්ස්පෙක්ටිව් හැම එකනම දැනගෙන ඉන්න ඕනේ නැත්නම් බැංකුව නම කුරුටු ගගා ඉඳලා හරියන්නේ නැහැ මට පේන්නේ ඔක්කොම බැංකුව වල කුරුටු ගානවා විතරයි. What is STEM education? Science, technology, engineering and mathematics. මෙන්න මේක ඔස්සේ ගිහපු education එකකින් අපේ labor force එක ඉස්සරහට skill කරා. එතකොට මොකද labor cost එක අඩු කරන්න බෑ definitely. So we are reskilling the labor force and we are developing this aspect and particularly the location aspect as a transshipment hub, and then we can do that. හැබැයි ඒක කරන්න බැරි ප්‍රශ්නේ මොකක්ද අපිට? අපි හිර වෙලා ඉන්නේ කොතනද? නෙමෙයි. මේ මොකක්ද?
Loan repayments.
Huh?
Loan repayments.
Repayment of loans. මෙන්න මේක අපිට කරන්න බැරි වෙච්ච නිසා අපි කරන්න අමාරු වෙච්ච නිසා තමයි අර ඒක තමයි අපි එක්කෙනෙක් අපේ එක සහෝදරයෙක් කිව්වේ අපි loan reschedule කරගන්න ඕනේ කියලා. මොකද මේක නිසා මෙන්න මේවල අපිට ඉන්වෙස්ට් කරගන්න දැන් බෑ. සල්ලි නැතුව ඉන්න. චීනේ loans and හටවද loans වලින් මේව බැලුවට FDIs නේද? අපි ඉන්නේ ඔයගොල්ලන්ට තේරෙන්න ඕනේ අපි economically අර chicken and egg situation එක. එක පැත්තකින් මේ විදිහේ competitive advantage එකක් ගත්තේ නැත්නම් ආවේ නැත්නම් අපිට FDIs එන්නේ නැහැ. අනිත් පැත්තෙන් FDIs එන්න මේ competitive advantage එක අපි හදා ගන්න ඕනේ. හදාගන්න අපිට සල්ලිත් නැහැ. දැන් මොකද කරන්නේ? Nimal Khartri, what's your opinion? Now what shall we do now? We are in a situation now. What shall we do?
Hello, sorry sir.
Yeah. What shall we do? Are you getting my point, right?
No sir, just go out and come in, sir.
You didn't follow me, right?
Yes.
So wait a minute. One problem is that I'm just getting some notification. So one problem is that we cannot attract FDIs because we don't have a competitive advantage developed. But unless we develop a competitive advantage, we will not get FDIs.
Yes.
And to develop competitive advantage, we don't have money. Now what shall we do?
We develop our own economy, like short and medium enterprises.
Okay. Anybody else would like to contribute? Rajmali?
Get FDI to develop the competitive advantage.
Yeah, but then FDIs don't come because we don't have a competitive advantage very strong. Are you getting my point, no?
Yes.
Roshan, any point? Samaranayaka? Sasik?
So developing by developing
Yes,
sector, developing SME sector.
Yeah, developing
Sri
SME
Lanka.
sector definitely important. Yes, I'm true. I mean, as a backbone, as a I would say a buffer to the country. Prasanna from America. So I would like to hear from you. This is that you have to, as a senior people, you have to contribute.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah, Prasanna.
Yeah, reducing this recurrent expenditure.
Okay, and then save some money.
Yes.
Okay. Who else would like to contribute?
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
We can initiate some incentive schemes and tax holidays for expatriates and attract their foreign remittances to the country.
Okay, so that we attract their foreign remittances to the country, so then at least we have a income, much income to generate. Okay, that's again a good point. Yeah. So what I want to tell is, Subhasha, anything you want to tell?
Yes, sir. Seeking foreign aids rather than investment.
Subhasha, it's a foreign aid. It's not a good option because no one will be giving us money now, no. Because we are in the transition economy, and who the hell will give and support us? They will say, you go and fly a kite. Arani?
Reduce the expenses and unwanted developments, and need to barrier or reduce the salary scale for the government employees to certain period or certain time.
I will cut all the money from the bank.
Not all the money. Certain instant to 5 years or to take as a government policy to develop our country, and develop after that. We will have an incentive scheme to them to repay or is pay to the generation or something like that. Or pension scheme.
Okay, Mr. Srilal.
There's one point I have. Now we export minor crops like cinnamon and pepper. So can we have some value addition to that and can earn a lot of foreign incomes? That's my point.
Okay, it's a good point. Rather than exporting the raw material or the raw farm,
yes, sir.
why not be a good suggestion? Why not we do that I would say the value added. Anjana Virasinghe.
Limiting the imports, like such as vehicle, like now we are doing, and also reboost the government institutions where the government can increase the revenue income with motivating the staff people like that.
Okay, very good. So I really appreciate all of the so yeah, I mean few points. Definitely we have to work on this. We have to make sure that our expenditure are limited. So less recruitment in future, even though it is a politically tough decision. Make sure these government servants are adequately skilled, improve government service efficiency, and make them more productivity. That's definitely one area. As you said, renegotiating of some of these loan and try to reschedule to a certain extent, convert that to equity, not fully, but so to a certain extent, it's absolutely a must. Focus whatever the money that saved from these things on STEM, increase the STEM education, STEM-based education, research and development, and fulfill the skill gap. It's other thing. Whatever possible way, use these fractions between India, China, and all other, leverage against each other, and then get these investment very carefully to the country, to the benefit of the country. And on the other hand, improve definitely our export base and improve export earnings. Any country in the world has not developed without export. All the countries develop exports. Wait, and then, yeah, wait a minute, and then make sure that that is our topic here. Our SMEs are not only, so that is actually, we will discuss that later in SMEs. Our SMEs, we have to upscale our SMEs, not all, but at least a reasonable amount of SMEs to be internationally competitive. Right? We have to make SMEs internationally competitive. Yeah, please tell what's your point.
So I think we have to do something with our loss-making state-owned enterprises,
Yeah, that is actually my last point of today, is that this one. The state-owned enterprises, we have to really, I mean, normally these enterprises should give money to the government. But now what is happening is these are draining money from the site, right? So definitely the state-owned enterprises, electricity board, water board, Sri Lankan Airlines,
Sri Lankan Airlines, Sipetco.
Yeah, petroleum corporation, all these things we have to make sure run as business enterprises. Business enterprises, not with political interferences. They have to run as businesses. Of course, giving service is a different thing, but introduce proper KPIs to the people, proper performance management system. Maybe you
How about my private public partnership, something like that?
Very good point. PPP, public-private partnership, right? So invest and ask some public sector, private sector to come and all of that. I mean, electricity is a good example and seems happening reasonably well, because imagine if all electricity to be manufactured by electricity board, we cannot take. I mean, telecommunication is a good private-public partnership. So we have to further refine that, engineer those things, and ask private sector also to be participate with the government sector to do this, right? And then to these other things that we have to do. Yeah. Other comments?
Actually, I want to add something because we don't have a strong and strong capital market in the country, because when we see the stock market in the country, it is continuously decreasing for last few years, because when we calculate the gain, it was a disaster. Actually, when we talk with the foreign investor, he laughed at Sri Lanka. Just see your stock market and see whether we can invest in the market like this. So I think we should focus more on the capital market as well.
Yeah, that's true, because as I told in the previous sessions, also our stock market is basically governed by very few people, but have more strong capital markets and all of that. But on the other hand, the issue is, unless these things be properly set up, you cannot expect the capital market to improve, because capital market would be something which come later in the development, perspective. So you cannot have the proper capital market and then rush do the development. First you have to do this development and then go to the capital market. So it's again a little bit of what is a priority, but definitely the requirement for increasing of the capital market is must. Yeah. And then of course eliminate corruption at every level from top to bottom. Normally corruption should first eliminate at top. Corruption you should not do from it, it's always top down. So first 1, 2, 3 tiers has to be eliminated and then let others to settle. So don't try to be, that's why all this Allah's Gannipa and all other for these all small people you tell, I mean, doesn't matter, doesn't make sense. I mean, I'm not saying to give bribes, but the thing is it has to come from the top, has to come from the head of state. No other person and then to do that. So let's see, finally, whether our politicians should are having that guts to do that. I mean, all these structural changes are very challenging. Do you think that a politician will do this?
They have their own agendas, so that is the main problem. Some of the politicians are really love for the country. They do policy changes and national policies to safeguard the country's interests as well as the citizens' interests, but some are not.
So what you have to do as general public then for that politicians?
Choose the right
Can't do anything about that.
Choose the right person to the right seat.
We have to appoint the correct person to the correct position.
Very good. Appoint a correct person and make sure from next election you kick them out like this. Right? So that's the thing. So who have to take the responsibility? We have to take the responsibility and we have to kick their asses and then get out. Right? And please, and then as Mr. Chandima said, I don't know, I don't want to ask, if you like, you can tell, but I don't want to ask a political question here.
Sorry, I don't want to comment on that further, sir.
I know that, so that's why I did not ask that, Mr. Chandima. So I don't want I have to ask you, like, who are the politicians that you think are honest? But I will not ask that, right? Because it's your private comment, right? So you have to make sure that you have to appoint that sort of a people, and politicians again really accountable to the country. Right. Okay. I think we are now closer to 5 o'clock. I think we should stop now because it's too heavy for me and as well as for you. Right. I know it's we are supposed to finish at 5:30, but doesn't matter. We'll take like this. Because next week our topic would be monetary policy. Again, a very, very interesting discussion. But other than that, any questions regarding this?
Excuse me, sir. Could you please further explain on KPIs, key performance index? Or
key performance indicator.
Indicators.
So key performance indicator. Now you guys have a KPIs in the banks, right?
Yes.
Similarly, what is that? Similarly, you have to give key performance indicators to all these SOE people from on the head of all the heads of this. You have to make this amount of profit. You have to reduce this amount of cost and all other. And if you are doing that, you will be given a hands-on bonus. And if you don't do that, you will have the consequences. That is what I sent the KPIs, right? And even countries like Singapore, even you have the KPIs for the ministers. If the ministers are not performing, even though the people elect them, they will not give the portfolio in Singapore. Lanka ministers are the KPIs. President's job, president or prime minister's job in Singapore is to make sure that each minister has a KPI, and he or she has to deliver that. That is very important. In your job, it's also, I mean, why in small jobs, if you have like that, why not in the top jobs? Okay. Anything else? All right. So with that, we will wind up our lecture on fiscal policy, which is of this, and then our next topic for next week is monetary policy. And then we will take, and after the monetary policy discussion, we go deeply into SMEs and SME competitiveness and role of SME in economic development. So I'm a little bit trying to build your knowledge like this from the periphery. So then let's see whether you can have, but if you would have studied, if you would have read and all other, so then there would be much more opportunity that you can further learn, right? Okay, so with that we will stop now, and then we will meet the next week, right? Okay, take care everybody, and bye bye.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Okay, bye. Take care.